Okay, so here are my DIY truck camper plans that I'm looking for some feedback on. Let me go to the assembly first. So the main design here was I wanted it to be lightweight, cheap. I think my budget was like 1,500 for the whole thing. Cheap, easy to remove. I wanted to be able to take it in, take it out whenever I wanted on a weekend. I didn't want to I didn't want it to be locked in it for it to be this huge process to take it on and off and in and out. Um, so this is sort of what I came up with. This is just a rough ballpark dimensioned drawing sketch of my truck. So here's the truck topper sits on the back, and this is it here. You can see there's the wheel wells, which this would sit on top of, and it would just slide in the back, and then um, you should put up the tailgate, and there you go. Then you're all done. So this is sort of what I came up with. I only wanted one drawer. I didn't want a second drawer to give me more height here if I needed to put, something that's slightly taller in my snowboarding shoes or helmet or something. Thought maybe the drawer, you're losing a couple inches. Um, so yeah. Let me just go into the framing. So this is sort of my plan. I was looking for some feedback on a couple of things. So I guess a couple big ideas is the drawer. I guess if the drawer looks good. I wasn't sure if this needed to be wider. I think this is a 2x6. Um, so yeah, a lot of my joints and stuff are 2x4s, which I thought would be cheaper and lighter. The big thing was like the lightweightness. I wasn't too worried since we have like a double shell from the topper and this. I sort of think you're getting a little bit of an air gap, so I don't need this to be the most wind resistant, the most sturdy thing. It just needs to be a frame that I can put some insulation on, and that's all it really needs to be. So that was my logic behind using 2x4s. Now, I wasn't sure. I know 2x4s aren't always the straightest cuts of wood. I know they can kind of warp and maybe not quite as strong, but granted, we're just hanging. This is the insulation I wanted to use, 1 inch thick XPS. I figured it was straight, easy to cut, good insulation. So that was sort of my design choice behind that. So yeah, then the drawer here, this is Teflon, so there's little strips of Teflon that should help slide it out. I didn't want to do a whole drawer system like with actual drawers. That seems like way too much work and not needed when I can just slide some wood on some Teflon strips. Um, so that was that. I wanted to put a window in so that you could adjust the amount of air that's coming through. So granted, I only did half the left side just because of modeling. Didn't need to do all of it. The time and the resources that it takes to model everything didn't seem necessary. So, but this would all be mirrored. So this slant and this window would all be on the side as well, and there would be a second door as well, a second hatch that you would put on this top to lock it up. So my thought was you have this piece of XPS that's inside a rail type system that you build, and you can slide it left or right. I'm not sure if I can actually drag. Yeah. Anyways, you get the point though. You could slide it over here, and you'd have a window that's 2 feet, 3 feet, or whatever in width. And so if you need more airflow through, so let's say there's a lot of moisture, it's really hot. You could crack open the windows on the side of the topper, and you could as well as open these and get some breeze that comes through. Or if there's too much moisture, we don't want moisture growing on the inside and mold and all that stuff ruining the wood and everything. So that was my thought for that. And for the door, I thought, so remember we have the tailgate that has to pop up here, and then we have the top of the topper that has to swing down as well. So we have to be able to close it from the inside. So my thought was we do this where we get these little panels and we keep them on the inside. We'll just have to prop them against the wall and have, I don't know, have a bungee cord that straps them down, or I don't know, hang them from the ceiling or something like that. And then when you need them, you just have these 2x4s laying in a corner here, and this door sort of fits around like this, and this is the insulation part, and you just press it in. There's these little notches that go around these brace type things. Then you line it up, and then you put this take a little 2x4 or 2x6 or something, and you just cut an angle on that. You make a little wedge, and this will slide down. As you bring this in, eventually it hits and it slides down, and that sort of smushes it flush and sealed with the outside. Maybe need a little bit of a seal tape here in between these two, but like I said, because it's inside the topper of the topper itself isn't 100% waterproof. I did a lot of work to make it very, very waterproof, but there's still a couple drops that come through every once in a while. But that's why, I'm not too concerned about making it waterproof. That's why I thought the double system would be a lot better than trying to design one system that was doing everything, I guess, because then it has to be able to, you have to drive with it and everything. So I wanted this to be easily removable, that I can just put in when I want to go camping, or when I want to, go down to New River Gorge and go kayaking or whatever. So yeah, and then this was the mattress, my thought. So this is XPS. I thought about putting it underneath, but I figured just on top is better than just a couple mattress latex foam topper thing. So this is the general layout. There's a couple things I'm concerned about is, am I going to need reinforcing on racking, that sort of thing. I know 2x4s, I wasn't sure about the strength of them. I didn't know if, it's just going to tip over, or, are some of these cuts going to be too tricky, getting these angles just right? Or, we can obviously play around with it. Yeah, I didn't know if some of these cuts were going to be tricky, or, just assembling all of these things in general, sort of having them, how we're going to screw them together. I'm not exactly sure where all the screws would go. Yeah, I guess another question is, I have this currently modeled as, I think, 3/4 thick, stranded, what's it called? Plywood sheet, where it's all those particle board type, not particle board, but whatever the wood is. But I would rather do maybe a 1/4 inch thick, actual plywood sheets. Yeah, I guess let me know if you guys have any thoughts on generally this shape. I wasn't sure if I needed more bracing this way, or I could add another one of these struts in the middle and have it go up through here in the middle to give more support. If this span is, how long is this span? 70 inches, what is that? 6 feet, 7 feet, or whatever. No, yeah, 6 feet. If this is going to sag, I know the only thing it's going to be holding up is XPS, which isn't that heavy, but I know only 2x4s is not really that strong too. So, yeah, I guess so let me show you this. This is my budget sort of a thing that I have thrown together. So plywood, I have links to everything, foam toppers. Another thing, I was thinking to do varnish. So to take all of this wood and just varnish all sides of it, maybe 2 coats, nothing crazy protection. I don't need to do 6, 7 coats or whatever. And that way, if there's drips that come through the ceiling of the topper, it's not that big of a deal. I know it's going to be snowy, and if I open the door and snow comes in and gets everywhere, I don't want to be too worried about the wood. Yeah, that was another idea that I had. Electrical tape, I thought maybe, I've heard reports that XPS on wood squeaks when it rubs and when you're driving down the road. So if you take tape, well, I'm gonna glue it with a construction adhesive, liquid nails type thing from the wood panels. I don't know if I explained. So there's going to be really thin, 1/8 inch thick plywood that sort of makes up the walls, and then you have the XPS which connects to that. We're going to glue that and connect. So um, yeah, I don't know if the electrical tape would be needed to stop that XPS from squeaking against the frame of the thing, but thought I put it in there just in case. Teflon, the Teflon is very expensive. And then I thought some spray foam. So there's like, could be used to fill the gaps. Like, for example, in some of these, in between here where these angle cuts sort of come in, there is a gap in here, sort of, you see, because you can't really, it's an angle and XPS is only square, so even if you cut it and blah, 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 you could do spray foam in here, or let's say there's a gap in the framing of where you have the XPS into the wood, you could maybe, spray in these gaps, and that might give it some more rigidity too, might give the frame, some stability and some structure so that it doesn't wobble and rack when you just move it and bring it out and everything. So yeah, that's basically my design. Let's see if there's anything else here that I want to talk about. Yeah, I didn't know if there's gonna be problem with these cuts, like making these notches. Especially this is the wedge. This is like a 2x4 or 2x4x6 or I don't know. And cutting this little wedge, like, I mean, how complicated is that possible? Getting that, it doesn't have to be perfect, just so that like we could wedge it in and seal it. And then, for example, like if we're gonna do this Teflon, we need to countersink the screws through here so that the wood slides on the actual Teflon. So we need to countersink the Teflon. So, and then also all the varnishing. I mean, is it necessary to varnish all sides? I know there's going to be moisture on the inside, moisture dripping from the outside, dripping on like all sides. So I was thinking, better safe than sorry, just varnish all sides. But maybe that's not necessary. And I guess time too. I was curious how much time this would take to do this whole project. So I just need to know when to get started if I want this to be finished in come snowboarding season. So yeah, let me know what you think. Thanks for your input and advice.